So there's been a lot of backlash regarding Jerron. I already reacted to Jerron's fight when he fought, that boy Chukajan. And the thing about it was everybody's been gravitating towards, first of all, Shawn Porter. He did a good job clip farming. I'm not gonna lie, he did a good job clip farming because his clip has gone viral, right? He said Jerron Boots Ennis is overrated, right? But here's the thing: before you start raging and it was great rage bait. It was a W clip farm, because what he was trying to say was, right, in the clip, in the video, what he was saying was, and I watched the video in its entirety. First of all, he said that Jerron Boots Ennis was overrated 2 years ago. So if you pay attention to the title, to the thumbnail, it was actually in quotes. The title was in quotes because he was quoting himself. He was saying that Jerron Boots Ennis is overrated. That's what he was quoting himself, right, from 2 years ago. And then he said, it's unfortunate because Jerron Boots Ennis is a victim of politics, boxing politics, paperwork. He's on the wrong side of things. He came in at a time where there was kind of already so much going on in the boxing scene that he could never get his work off. I'm pretty sure he came in the game late as well. Actually, no, he had like 30 fights. But it's just the fact that this was his point, was out of those 30 fights, he never had a chance to really sharpen himself because the comp, they were just kind of giving him leftovers. Like I remember when he fought Sergey Lipinets, right? And when he fought Sergey Lipinets, it looked like, because Sergey Lipinets, former world champion, you know what I mean, gave people some hard fights, but it looked like they were positioning him to be the next champion. But if you don't remember, Boots was kind of on the outskirts of the welterweight glamour because you had Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford with all the belts, and they were looking to unify like the entire division. They were looking to unify the entire division. So with that being the case, it was like, okay, well, what do we do with Jerron in the meantime? You know what I mean? They kind of had no plan of what they should do with Boots. So he kind of just waited. He did fight. Everybody was falling in love with his style because his style had a lot of glitz and glamour. His style was fan friendly. It is fan friendly, right? But the thing about it is, he has so much extra swag and so much extra on his style that it seems as though he never really got to sharpen the fundamentals of his game. And that's not his fault. You know what I mean? Because that's just his style, and he's gotten away with being athletic for so long. I always talk about this. Super athletic fighters that have natural talent can only go so far, because what happens is you fight somebody who's a veteran, who has more rounds than you, who they're more fundamentally sound. And in this case, it happened to be Chukajan, who was the veteran fighter, doing a lot of veteran slick tactics, gave Boots one hell of a fight, right? And it just happened to be troublesome for him. So again, his style never really he just didn't really get to develop his style like that. And then he gets into this fight, and then everyone's saying now he's overrated. It looked lackluster. It was just like, it's just unfortunate that he has to be going through it like he's going through it when it comes to this type of stuff. And I think that, to be honest, he's not overrated. I think that he does need to move up to 154. And that was another point that Shawn Porter made, where he was like, look, he's not overrated, but he's probably overtrained because he does so much training. He's sparring 14 hours a week. You know what I mean? He's sparring, or 14 hours, 14 rounds in a day. He's running a lot. He's locking in. He's doing his thing. And they're like, I feel you, Boots, but you got to spend more time in the ring, sharpening your skills, facing all of these different styles. Because if you come in and you're overtrained and you're overworked, you risk having a performance like this where you fight a guy whose style is honestly so unorthodox and just something that's already hard to train for. But what I will say is that the exposure to that style and his ability to still win the fight, that speaks a lot to his talent. But I hope that does develop him to start working on some of his defense, working on some, you know what I mean? Maybe even working on his mental fortitude to where he's not getting so frustrated, you know, working on, you know, just some things that he could be working on, or that I hope that it did sharpen and add to his already pretty deep toolbox. You know what I mean? Another thing as well, people were instantly like, oh, he's not ready for Bud. I don't think he's ready for Bud. You know what I mean? I think that he should go to 154 and fight Virgil Ortiz. And the thing that sucks too about him signing to this promotional company being Matchroom is that at 154 they don't really have too much work for him. I mean, they do, but they don't. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like everywhere he turns, he's always on like this. He's always gets the short end of the stick no matter what move he seems to make. I think that it will work out for him, but he does have a lot of, like, his record is the definition of like a padded record, because he has 30 fights, but he hasn't really been fighting very much these last couple years. Like, he fought once in 2022, twice in 2023. This is his second fight in 2024. You know, meanwhile, all his not necessarily his peers, but all the younger guys coming up, they're fighting 3-4 times a year. And I want to see him fight, you know, 3-4 times a year. I want to see him move up to 154. You know what I mean? Spend more time in the ring, spend more time beating people up, spend more time getting more exposure to styles. Because my thing is, if I don't know who he's sparring, we really don't know. But if he was sparring somebody of note, I feel like we would have heard about it, or they would take pictures together, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, bro, if you're just sparring these Philly guys and you're just around the same style all day, where you get to sit on your punches, turn angles, dance, you know, do what you have your way in sparring, and you don't have to necessarily elevate, you're going to end up being a one-trick pony in the sport. That's not what you want. When other fighters adapt to your style, right, and they finally catch up with what you don't like, because they're watching this Karen fight. Now, mind you, Karen had to work his ass off and he still lost. So Boots is still fire. But when they catch up and adapt to your style, they're able to train for your style, and then you're not able to adapt because of how indulged in it you are. That's not good. You know what I mean? One thing about Bud that's so good is he's like Bruce Lee. He's like water. His style, it changes. His rhythm is unbreakable because he's been exposed to so many different styles. I recommend you watch Bud's marathon, his fight marathon on YouTube. I think it's Top Ranks. It's a Top Rank marathon or whatever. All the way back to when Bud had the dreads, all that. He was fighting all types of styles, bro. He was fighting Cubans, Dominicans, black fighters, African fighters, Eastern European fighters, Mexican like, this dude was always fighting. You know what I mean? He would work out, get into great shape, boom, and then get in the ring, work on his skills based on what he knows, work on his fundamentals, and then he would just be in that ring, man. He was in that ring, and you can see how his style developed over time, because every fight, well, most of his fights, if not every fight that he did fight, was a meaningful fight. You know what I mean? They're the type of fights that can develop a pound for pound #1 guy. You know what I mean? Shoot, even at one point, I can say the same about a Canelo, bro. Even though he's ducking smoke from people that give him issues, you can't say he hasn't been exposed to what the world has had to offer. He fought Triple G, man. He fought Special K, Kovalev. This man, he fought everybody except for like the people who he knew would probably dog him out. Even fought Floyd, you know what I mean? And that was just the start of his legacy. But you know, the exposure to these styles, that's what elevates your game. And if you look at who Boots has fought, if you look at who Tank has fought, right? Not to bring Tank into this, but I'm saying people who just stick to what they know and they make a show out of it. And Boots is not really a showman. He doesn't really like, he's a very humble guy. So he has two things working against him right now: the paperwork, and the fact that he's not outspoken guy who talks a lot of trash and all that. He just likes to step in the ring and ball out. You know what I mean? And that's good, but that's also bad if we're talking about the business. If we're talking about the reason why it seems as though he gets shelved in his division, whatever division that he's in. It's hard to sell him. It's hard to make people want to fight him. So, but the type of people that they fight, you know what I mean? They end up tailoring guys to their style for the most part. Now, Karen Chukajan was a complete wild card. Nobody expected it to be what it was. When I seen him moving around the first time, I said, if this guy decides to let his hands go, he's going to be trouble. And sure enough, that's exactly what that fight was. But my point is, he hasn't had enough exposure in his 30 fights to all of these different styles, right? He's been able to just do whatever he likes to do over and over again in all of his fights with pretty much very little resistance. Like, he's doing spin moves and shit. I'm like, all right, bro, like, you're super athletic, you're super fast, but what else? And then you got a guy who's also very strong, athletic, and fast, who has the know-how, and then you see what happened. So for people saying that he got exposed, yeah, I could say that, because now we know what we know. You know what I mean? People are not necessarily honeymooning over Boots like they were when they first saw him. And I was in the same boat, because I didn't think that I didn't think that his career was going to play out like this, where there's lack of development. You know what I mean? Lack of development, lack of exposure. I didn't expect it to play out like this. I thought when he fought Sergey Lipinets that they were going to start building him. But one thing I will say about the Zone and PBC, or Matchroom and PBC, is they have trouble building fighters. Like, Top Rank has been building fighters for so long, right? They have very, very, very great matchmaking skills. And because they have ESPN, which is, I mean, the most popular network in sports. If Stephen A talks about you, if ESPN is interviewing you, if they have a pound for pound, like, everybody's gonna see it, because the only time anybody sees a PBC fight or the Zone fight is if that junk is on pay-per-view. And those names are related to, like, you kind of gotta create and craft your own viral moment. So he wasn't built very well. And I hope that doesn't come back to bite him, because when they finally do decide, you know what, Boots, fine, we'll throw you in the deep end, and then he fights a Virgil Ortiz, or he fights a, I hope that he doesn't just end up getting buzzsawed because he doesn't know what to do with somebody who has the hand speed, maybe not the foot speed, but who has the hand speed and who has more exposure to different styles, maybe has more of a chin. You know what I mean? Bootsy has a chin. He's in great shape. But I just think that he spends too much time in the gym, not enough time in the ring, like Shawn Porter was saying. That was a great point that he made. And I think that he doesn't have enough exposure to different styles. All the PBC fighters that matched up with, you know what I mean, when you had Bud and Errol Spence, I was of the belief Errol Spence was going to take the W, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm not knowing about Bud's earlier history. I started watching Bud at a little bit before. I think it was like when he became undisputed, when he fought Ricky Burns. Yeah. Matter of fact, no. It was like a random fight when he had dreads. Bro was fire. You know what I mean? But I just wasn't aware of at the time. He's been fighting since like 08 or something crazy. He's been fighting for a long time. And then Errol Spence was, I started watching when I started really locking in on boxing. I think it was like 2013 or whatever. So he already, he just came from the Olympics in 2012. Like, I had seen Errol Spence doing his thing on Fox. It was good. You know what I mean? PBC, they used to be really good at building fighters. I don't know what happened, But Errol Spence was just fire. You know what I mean? So I watched all his fights and I'm thinking, okay, this guy, Errol Spence, is strong. He's, you know, and then they come into the fight. And as I've grown and matured, I understood that the difference is because styles make fights, right? So whoever's been exposed to more styles, not to mention, I mean, yes, Errol Spence got thrown out of his Ferrari, bro. He's definitely not the same. But regardless, the exposure to all of these different styles is what makes a fighter elite. And that's just what I'm gonna say it again. The exposure, whoever has the most exposure and experience with different styles, different rhythms, different cadences of punches, different types of angles of punches, of how to defend those, right? Like even, bro, Floyd, when he fought Maidana the first time, that shit was so unorthodox the first time, bro. He had trouble defending himself. And that style where he just coming with a crazy weird angles and all them punches are hard. You know what I mean? He fought Miguel Cotto. He fought against a lot of styles. This is before Eastern European fighters were really like that. You know what I mean? When Lomachenko came out here, and Triple G, that was when people were like, okay, Eastern Europe is like that. But before, it was the Cubans and the Mexican fighters that were giving everybody problems, bro. Puerto Rican fighters, they were getting everybody problems. You know what I mean? The Mexican fighter, the black fighters, the Cuban, they were the ones giving everybody problems. And Floyd, he had trouble with Maidana, man. He ran that shit back. And I think that honestly, bro, that exposure to the styles, to all of those styles, is what helps build a fighter to become elite. You know what I mean? They're able to adapt to whatever it is that's in front of them. And I think if Boots gets in the ring now with a Bud, and Bud never dissed him. He never dissed him. He never dissed Errol Spence. He has respect for Boots. He has respect for Errol Spence. But Bud has the skills to nerf and pick apart natural talent. You just seen what he did to Madrimov. People say, oh, that was a this and that. Bro, his rhythm, he was able to break Madrimov's rhythm, his herky-jerky rhythm, and then do him like a snake charmer, put him to sleep. You know what I mean? And into Bud's rhythm, and land some really good shots and do some really good work and just control him so that way he's not lunging like him, because Madrimov fights like a cobra. He likes to kind of poach you to sleep with his rhythm, with his movement, with his herky-jerkiness, and have you just waiting on him because you don't know when to go. And nobody ever can check him because they don't have that rhythm, they don't have that timing. Then he just starts lunging at you with big shots, turning you. Bro, when Bud fought him, he kept all of the work right in front of him, made sure that he was checking that rhythm. They were both restarting, they were checking each other's rhythm. He was checking his rhythm and trying to put him under his, Bud was trying to put Madrimov under his rhythm. See what I'm saying? So I think that if Bud and Boots fight, that's an easy fight for Bud. No, I'm not even lying. If he shows him something he never seen, a rhythm he hasn't seen, a level of patience he hasn't seen, because usually they come forward fighters at their star fighters over on PBC. That's what they do. You know what I mean? We'll talk about Tank eventually whenever he got a fight coming up, but I'm only talking about niggas who fight. This is not a gossipy boxing channel. We're talking about niggas who fight. So I think Bud will show him something he never seen because he has that bag. You get what I mean? So just to close this out, is Boots overrated? Did we overrate him? Because he didn't overrate himself. Did we overrate him? When Shawn Porter said that 2 years ago, and then now we're seeing how it's playing out. Did we overrate him? Yes and no. He has the talent, but due to a few factors, most of them being political, he has not been able to get in front of who he needs to get in front of to develop his style to become its best, because he has the tools, right? He has the tools, he has the work ethic, but I think also that is a problem with training. And I'll say this before I go. A lot of people like to talk about father-son dynamics when it comes to training. It's only not good if the father is not willing to take the son to experience more styles and more different types of training, right? Devin Haney's dad surrounds him with different trainers all the time. He's working with Yoel Judah, Ben Davidson, Mickey Bay, and that team, that squad they got over there, they go all over the country and all over the world to get their sparring in, to get their fights in. They're fighting fighters from all over the world. They're not shielding Devin Haney from experiencing new styles and different types of work. Versus a Bozy Ennis who says, hey, just go in there and get him out. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. He was having a moment. I forgot who said it. I think it might have been Ant who said on the Portaway podcast, who said, oh, he had a dad moment because he was just saying, get him out of there. Get him out of there. Not once did he really tell him, hey, go to the body. Not once did he tell him, hey, you got to punch without sitting down so hard on your punches. You got to be on the move. You know what I mean? You don't have to move with him, but you need to move to new angles to make him reset. When you get him to reset, then come with that jab and start probing at him, stabbing to the body with the jab. Check him, check the movement with your jab. He didn't give him any type of real coaching in the fight. And then he was just as frustrated as his son because they're thinking about it like, oh man, bro, this fight ain't going too good. I hope that, they don't limit our opportunity. They're thinking outside of the fight. They're not thinking about the fight. So the only way that this goes up from here is if his next fight, he goes up to 154, right? Saves the training for training camp. You can work out, stay in shape, but save the training for training camp. Go into your next fight. Fight somebody like, honestly, a Virgil Ortiz that's tailored to Boots' style. He'll cook. But after that, you're going to have to start facing fighters that have different styles so you can stay busy. Get at least 2 more fights this year, maybe. Try to move up to 154 because you're already a big ass dude. And then from there, build yourself because you want that Bud fight, right? So you're going to have to build your style to prepare yourself for what Bud has. So you're not just in there trying to be athletic, catch and shoot, and just throw punches as hard as you can, sitting down and turning everybody. You're not turning Bud like that. I'm sorry. He's too strong and he has too much experience. So with that being said, I will catch y'all in the next video. I'm gone.